Up here in this case over here, this white guy named Jeremy S. I'm not sure how to say his last name. It's a Slavic last name. So there's a white guy over here in Manitoba, the province of Manitoba in Canada. In 2022, he killed at least 4 First Nation Aboriginal women who were disadvantaged. So he chopped up 4 Aboriginal First Nations women and he dumped them in suitcases and dumped them into at least 2 different landfills in Manitoba. The police found one of the bodies in one landfill, but there's another at least 2 bodies in another landfill, and the government of Manitoba and Canada are refusing to search the landfill for the bodies of the 2 victims because they claim that it's too expensive. $184 million is the price tag to have the proper workers and proper precautions to guard their health against hazardous materials and chemicals at this landfill. But you know what? $184 million is not a big deal if you divide it by 3 years. It could take 3 years to search this landfill. So 184 million divided by 3, and think about how many jobs it could create over a 3 or 4 year period. To contribute to the economy. And when you look at how much money, how many billions and billions of dollars have been given to Ukraine to buy weapons of mass destruction from the United States military industrial complex, $184 million is a drop of water in a huge ocean. So basically, First Nations women are still being victimized by the government of Canada, government of Manitoba, and other various governments in Canada because they're disadvantaged. In my previous video, I talked about the woman in Saskatchewan who got her baby taken away and was falsely told that her baby died and she has to move on with her life. And then there's another case in Manitoba in my part 2 of my previous video saying that social workers and hospital administrators, including nurses and doctors, look for every possible excuse to screw over people, look for excuses to take away people's babies based on how much money they make. That's just sad. These are just human rights violations. So right now, basically, Manitoba and Canada is viewing these 2 victims as not important and subhuman and just not on par with everyone else. That's why they're refusing to put in the effort and public funds into searching for the 2 bodies of these 2 unfortunate victims. You can read more about it on Wikipedia. Just type in 2022 Winnipeg serial killer. The guy's name's Jeremy. Last name begins with S, Slavic last name. So this guy's a serial nut job too. So he was picking on the most vulnerable people. Also, he basically pretended to be. He became a volunteer at various women's shelters where there's a lot of disadvantaged First Nation women. So yeah, he pretended to actually care about vulnerable people. So he volunteered at a women's shelter, and he also just randomly pops by, chats with vulnerable people and falsely befriends them, and he tricks them into he falsely befriends them. He's like fake friend. He becomes fake friends with these women, befriends them, invite them to his house, and he would beat them and do whatever crimes he wanted, and he killed 2 of them. So yeah, this is just unfortunate. Nobody gives a crap about First Nations women or men or children. This has nothing to do with residential schools that happened 50 to 150 years ago. Nothing to do with the Catholic Church, and nothing to do with residential schools. This happened last year in around May 2022. So it's like a little bit over 12 months. this nonsense still continues in Canada. This is the real genocide. Not in Canada, USA, they just talk about Uyghurs in China, whatever, to cover up their own fallacies, cover up their own shame, because the genocide against First Nations Aboriginal people are still happening right now in Canada.